Alright, another consciousness video, I think. See what we can do with it anyway. So yeah, everybody's just gonna yammer, in some sort of yammery kind of way about all this bibble babble about what we are, and what we are as machines. And people like Matt and even Conference Report seemed somewhat uncomfortable with that title. It's a mechanism, and it follows rules, and it's all quite understandable. And so anyway, To Be Serious has expanded her question to conceptualizing this idea that how do you go from just plain matter to matter that contemplates contemplating. yeah, right. So what? Any contemplation is kind of bizarre. Yeah, okay, it's bizarre that we are conscious in the sense that we have this thing going on inside of our brain. This reality engine. It just seems like it's a reality engine. It's not like a fake engine. It's like a reality engine. Like we are more, I feel, more real than the physical stuff around me that's not doing this reality engine thing, that isn't running one of these machines, these brain things. So it's the theater is more real, than the play, than the reality it's metaphoring, or the story it's telling. It's like the story, it's like the movie is more real than the reality it's portraying, or something like that. But that's what we've sort of gotten to. But it is just an illusion. It's one hell of an illusion, but it's just something created in this space, this mechanism of neurons and data inputs has created the illusion of it. But it's not a. It's just a machine, and what it produces is the illusion of reality, pretty much. So anyway, I would argue that we have these senses, and that the sixth sense is the projector of your mind, superimposing, and combining the five senses with its other influences. So anyway, let's just start from the beginning now. So in the beginning, there was, let's just make it really simple. Let's start to, let's not go all the way back to the DNA molecule, but let's start with like a paramecium or something. Some sort of little buggy. And, they have some senses. So they got little radars of some kind. They pick up chemistry. And they have movement. They can stretch, their bodies can move, and, they can wiggle. So they can react. So they have input and output, right? And that it all we got. We got inputs and we got outputs. And so that's what these machines do, right? So part of the device is basically just mechanisms that are sensing the world, okay, coming up with a reaction. And then the output is some kind of reaction. Some kind of body part does something. So information, chemistry is happening out here, sunlight, whatever it is, and there's a just pretty mechanical reaction. Some part mechanically reacts in a pretty hard programmed way. Okay, it's always going to react the same way. The same conditions exist, or very similar conditions exist. You'll get the same reaction. They're easily fooled. Their senses, parameciums, they do have. They have the unique, not unique, but they have a standard operating procedure where, whenever they bang into something, they move, 3 steps back, and then turn a quarter turn, and then move forward again. And so, that's their programming. So they're programmed just like a clock. It just orients them. So, bang into something, then back up, bang into it, back up, bang into it, back up, bang into it, back up, and then you'll be going this way, and you'll be free. So this is basically how they function. It's not that complicated. So it's very simple. Input comes in, triggers an output. Now, originally, this stuff was all just chemistry. So there would just be a chemical, like, that you could almost look at an organism, say it had a head and it had a tail. You could almost separate the two, and you can almost say that the head would produce a piece of chemistry. It would free a whatever kind of molecule. You could even say a nicotine molecule, and it would shoot it to the tail, or it would just shoot it out. It would just pop out of a sense organ, and it would just float around, and then there would be another sense organ in the tail that when a nicotine thing hit it, it would wiggle the tail. So it's just that'd be the simple chemical reaction. So eventually this became, just because chemistry is kind of slow, this became electrical, and the neuron was invented. So you had a cell called a neuron that could just, it could be a pretty long little neuron sometimes. And so something could happen here, and electrical stimulus would go down the neuron, and it would trigger a little bit of chemistry down here. And so it was very quick, almost instantaneous, the travel of this little electricity. So something happens here, a little electric current's created, and you get a reaction here. And so we have a reflex. Right, so that's it. That's, that's the game begins. Right? So input, output, it's just a reflex. That's all that's really happening. Something happens here, it triggers something there. And then when you just combine these things, so if you just have a reflex, I just don't need to make it complicated, but you can just see that it's all a little knee-jerk. So you could just have an organ that's like an eye that maybe just sense light and dark, and that's all it does. So when it's light, it's on. When it's dark, it's off. And so you could just have that one little trigger, and then that you could have like 6 of those, let's say. Okay, so you're analyzing different circumstances. So when they're all off, it's nighttime, and so there could be another organ that just senses all of them. And if any of them are on, it keeps producing a piece of electricity saying keep moving. But if they all go off, then it says stop. Okay, you're done for the you're done. Yeah, that's right. You're done for the day, and the thing would just shut down. And so that would be the input comes in. It's processed by first internal input software, converted into a response, and then output. Okay, and the outputs can get fancier and fancier. So instead of just a tail wiggling, the knee can jerk, or you can have more and more complex reactions to the input, much like the paramecium having the procedure, the in-program procedure of doing the same mechanical process. So you can have mechanical outputs, and you can have mechanical inputs that are in themselves brains of a way. It's a node of action. So you could call it a an action node. You could call it, what else could you call it? But it's like a little mini brain of programming. Alright, so that's what our senses basically are. So now our eyes see stuff, our brain interprets it, a piece of our brain, and creates a coherent, some kind of image thing that comes out. So there's an input and an output out of that one piece of our brain. And the same thing for our other senses. So touch and hearing and sound are all pre-brained. Okay, the brain processes the raw materials and turns it into a more coherent bit of data. And then that data goes into another pre-brain, let's say, another node, another action node of brain. That probably incorporates the processing to see what kind of patterns does this match? Does this match? So this could be even the memory brain or some other piece of the brain, but another piece of processor. And then, what consciousness basically is. So I would argue this is the input part. This is the input half. Okay, so the input is basically all the sense data. First, it's made coherent by the little brains here, the little centers of your brain, and then the entire mass is brought in, and added to it is this idea of memory. So you could almost just say that the let's just get rid of this and just have memories over here. But anyway, you can just get the idea that all the input comes in, and then added to it is this memory function. This what does it sound like? What does it remind me of? What is the, our brain connects it to what it stored from previous conscious experiences. So the conscious experiences are stored in memory as data, and that data has probably subconscious elements, but it doesn't, I don't want to get too deep into this. And it just does some data matching. And so that's here. And then all that's going to happen the next time is there's this other half of our brain that's doing exactly the same thing. It's again memory processing, all right, of reactions. And it'll do the same thing in the sense that we have subroutines of reflexes. So we have, if you learn how to throw a baseball, this becomes this is your baseball reaction. You know how to throw the baseball. You learn how to drink tea with your pinky out, so this is pinky outing. And this is, so you have all these little subroutines that are tied to this response brain. And so all that's really going to happen is that this brain is going to process, it's going to come up with some sort of memory interaction or influence. It's going to get reprocessed into a new image of reality. Okay, so it has the sense data plus the imaginary emotional data and other kind of references. And then this brain is going to react to it with a response, which is going to be either to say, think some more, do some more memory processing because I'm not sure what to do, or it's going to say, no, I'm ready to act, I'm ready to jump in the pool, and so run the jump in the pool program, or run the runaway program, or run the, dial the telephone because I want to call that bitch, or whatever the thing is, and it's going to just run the subroutines that you already have established. And then as you do your stuff, like I'm talking now, so it's doing this, really, this stuff's rolling through here, rolling. And so as I'm making this video, my brain is really working. I mean, stuff is flying in here, it's going through here, and it's doing all this little sentence structure would be in here, a little subroutine for building a sentence, a little subroutine for, sloppy doodles. Do a sloppy doodle. Yeah, so it's running all this crap. And at the same time, it's watching me do it. So all this is going right back. See, it's flying all the way back into my senses. So it's going in all the way back through my senses. I'm watching myself do it. I'm feeling myself do it. I'm hearing myself do it. All of this data is coming right back in here again. And it's reprocessing it and saying, oh, you did that well or you did that badly. Because it has memories of what a good job is, what a good drawing is. Oh, and saying, oh, what a shit drawing this is. But it's saying, well, it's sort of good because it's sort of got this thing's happening, so you got that part right, and you got the little brain part right. So it's saying, yeah, some of this makes a lot of sense, so some of it's not too bad, but it's generally kind of sloppy, and it could use more colors, and and so my brain is processing what I'm doing, and then reacting to it in my standard personality kind of way. So I have this standard, what I have become as a conditioned organism. So this is my conditioning. My culture, my intelligence, my education, my emotional disposition, based on how I've been treated as a person from the time I was a kid, and whether I'm reactionary, I'm too hostile, I'm too angry, I'm too blah, 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 all that crap is in here, and it's all part of the nuance of my reaction, and, but yeah, it's all kind of standard programs. These are all programs that are pretty hard. Once they're established, you don't kind of deviate from that conditioning thing. And then you have this abstract thinking thing, where you can just keep, thinking, that your brain just says, look at it some more, look at it some more, look at it some more. And so even though something's conditioned, you could almost say, hey, I can think about it. And by thinking about it, I can say, no, let's rewrite that program. That conditioned program is shit. So it's almost like right in here, your brain is doing this processing, and it can be saying, well, look, I can come up with a better way to do that. And so it can override this conditioned thing and say, no, let's learn how to throw the baseball underhand, or let's learn how to throw it sidearm. And so your brain can change, can start reconditioning you into a new mode of reaction. Or it can just try it, just experiments with things and sees how it works out. And if it works out in the real world and you get rewarded, and you know, it remembers that you got rewarded because that's a conscious event. So it's part of your memory. And so when this stuff comes in, your memory is going to be aware of, hey, it really worked well that last time I got rewarded. People treated me nice, blah, blah, blah. So that worked out well. And so you have that good positive reinforcement for a standard program that you rewrote over here. So now you have a new program that's getting stronger in your conditioning. You know, it's part of your memory. But it's getting stronger as a reaction because it worked. So anyway. But that's it. That's all. That's what we are. It's just made, and it's just made out of this. I mean, it's just made out of, here's point A, here's point B, you know, and you got this little squiggly line between the two, and then you got something that's measuring B and C, and if they match, then it squiggles. And then you got something else here that's going, this is, we can call D, and then it's looking for E, and so E and D combine to see if that, you know, and that's all it's doing. It's just knee jerks connected to knee jerks connected to knee jerks. It's just little reflexes. So everything that happens is a reflex. Everything. It's all reflexes. It's all brain reactions to the R in the word, the flow of the word, whether it's in italics or script or whether it's in bold, type. I mean, all that's, let's put the D on. All of those things create reflexes, reactions inside your brain. And those reactions lead to other reactions, lead to other reactions, lead to other reactions. And that's the nature of programming. And that's all that's happening, and that's all we are. And this part right in here is very interesting. The space between your output brain and your input brain. Okay, that's the interesting place. That's where all this crap is coming in, and then all this output data is going right the hell back in again. It's this feedback thing that is probably the nature of consciousness. Feelings are created, and then they're thrown right back in your face. Well, I mean, obviously they're thrown in your face. They're thrown right in front of your sense perception, in a sense. They are your sense perception. They're an immediate reaction to what's around you. Yeah, that's probably enough. Horribly cold out there. Yeah, it's minus 20 Celsius. Yeah, isn't that, that's just, yeah. So, I mean, it's climate change. Yeah, it's climate change now. Or, isn't that what, yeah, climate change, that's what they use when the warming seems like cooling. But, man, the weather's fucked up. There's actually going to be a day this week where it's going to go from 50 degrees during the day to 0 at night. Now, that's fucked up. Very fucked up. Extremely fucked up. I mean, that's Fahrenheit. The Celsius shit, I'm starting to learn it, you know, but minus 20 degrees. That sounds impressive. It's only minus 5, but Fahrenheit, but, you know, it sounds bad. But it's bad. That's cold. It's too cold for me. Hopefully it won't be too cold for the, you know, houses have iffy water pipes and such. Hopefully I won't have any emergencies. Hopefully. So anyway. Yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah, that drawing is outrageous. Yeah, I gotta save these, right? Yeah, just, you know, they just be, yeah, that's just, nobody's ever going to be able to re-decipher that. Can't reconstruct that. Anyway, until next time. I mean, not from that. Somebody could just hand you that and say, oh, this is a map of consciousness, believe it or not. And be like, oh, yeah, sure it is. But it really was.